bag makers, welcome to the Bag Maker Society podcast. I thought I'd start the first podcast by introducing myself and explaining how I got into bag making. I would love if anybody listening would like to come on and talk about their bag making journey too. How they got started, what it is that they love about bag making, and if they see bag making taking them further in the future. I'd love to hear it all. I don't just want this podcast to be about the names we all know and love, but I want it to be about everybody and anybody within the bag making community. That's what I want this podcast to be about, creating a crafty community. So my name's Deb. I run a bag making supply business called Me Made Makes, which I've done since about July 2021. I've actually been making bags for maybe it's just under 10 years now. I've been sewing quite a long time. I actually learned to sew when I was 17. My wonderful mother-in-law taught me to sew when I was pregnant with my eldest daughter. I literally could not get pants to fit me in the leg length and cover my bump, and being a 17-year-old and it being around about 1994, you'll be able to work my age out from that. Maternity wear just wasn't really that available unless you kind of went to Marks and Spencer's or Dotty P's, and I couldn't afford one and I didn't want to go to the other. So my mother-in-law taught me basically how to make a pair of elasticated pants, trousers that were long enough in the legs to accommodate my leg length and my big bump at the front, and I thought I was the bee's knees. And that's basically how my sewing journey started. When the kids were little, because I had Patrick a few years later, I used to make some things for them, but having two kids under 2 and having to go back to work, sewing just kind of took a bit of a back seat for quite a long time, and I didn't take sewing back up again until about 10 or 12 years ago. And I actually got a sewing machine out of IKEA. I don't know if anybody can remember those sewing machines out of IKEA, but the one mint. They were about 45 quid or something ridiculous like that. And we were literally in IKEA one day, and it needed to take curtains up, so I needed to do some sort of alterations job, which I was perfectly capable of doing. I just didn't have a sewing machine. And I said to Jason, who I was married to at the time, I'm just going to get that machine because I can do it myself, and it's going to cost me X amount to get this job done. I might as well buy that sewing machine, do it myself, and then I've got a sewing machine if things need doing in the future. And that's what I did, and then that's kind of where the journey started again. And I got into sort of making bits and pieces, and I dabbled in making clothes, but I'm kind of a weird shape, and it takes a lot of math and a lot of geometry to get things to fit me, which is quite hard work and can be frustrating. And it was during one of these frustrating periods that I thought I'm going to have a go at something else, and I came across the NCW pattern by Emmeline Bags, and I made my first NCW, and I just fell in love with bag making. I just loved that. I mean, don't get me wrong, this necessary clutch wallet, which is sometimes known as the NCW, was absolutely atrocious. When I look back now, I think, oh my goodness, I used all the wrong things because I didn't follow what was in the pattern. I used to pretty much have a habit of, I'll just do this, that'll work, and inevitably it didn't. But yeah, I just used sort of like really cheap generic interfacing that I got from local haberdashery, and I didn't put any stabiliser in it, and yeah, it was pretty atrocious, but I was still absolutely hooked, and I still absolutely loved it. I gave it to my mother-in-law, and I'm pretty sure that my mother-in-law still has it. And yeah, that's where my love of bag making started. I loved the fact that I didn't have to make it fit, and it didn't take me days and days and days to make. I mean, that NCW did take me quite a long time to make. But yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just so satisfying. And then I got into making bags big time, and I just sort of tried to find all of the free patterns and have a go at them. And yeah, and I now have it as business. So yeah, so that is how I got into bag making, how I discovered it. like I say, the NCW will always have a special place in my heart because it was the first thing I ever made, and I've made so many of them now that I can literally make them with my eyes closed. I don't recommend that. That's not a thing to do. But yeah, I know that if I ever lose my sojo, or if I make something and I find it really difficult and it makes me question whether I can actually do this thing, I go back and I make an NCW and life's good again. All is restored, and I'm on to the next thing. And yeah, so I have done a lot of them, and it is always my go-to wallet. So that's one of like my favourite things to make. I've made them in all sorts of things. I like working in cottons and faux leathers, and I've just kind of got into sewing with the leather quite recently. If any of you follow my YouTube channel or read my blog on the website, you'll see that I had a trip to a leather place in London a few weeks ago, and yeah, it was just an absolute heaven. So I've got quite a bit of leather to work through over the next however long it takes me to get through it all, so I'm sure there'll be some videos on my YouTube channel around that. But I've never actually made an NCW with leather. I think it probably would be more of an accent thing than an entirety thing. But yeah, so I've got some bags planned. Like I say, I went on to discovering some free patterns. So I started making a few bag stock patterns and a few swoon patterns, who again, I always love their patterns. I'm a really big fan of lavender and twine patterns. Absolutely love the way Erica writes her patterns. They're so well thought out. They just go together really well. And I find that I actually incorporate a lot of her techniques in other bags that I make, where, you know, like recess zippers, I'll always do my recess zippers the same way that she does them. So I'm a big fan of lavender and twine bags. So I've got a feeling that this leather that I purchased a few weeks ago, I can see a lot of leather bags. Try saying that when you've had a few leather, lavender and twine bags in my future. So I just love her style of bags. They're so classy. I don't really have a tendency to make sort of a certain type of bag, you know, whether it's a crossbody strap bag or a shoulder bag, I tend to make just a variety of things, and just depend on what I fancy making. I know some people tend to sort of stick to one style, but I tend to be a bit varied. I'd probably, out of anything, probably go for more of a shoulder bag than like a crossbody or a backpack. But I have made all sorts of bags over the years. And like I say, I kind of dabbled in, you know, different mediums, doing bags with cotton, doing them with faux leather. I use quite a lot of waterproof canvas in the inside of my bags, and especially the purses that I make. I always use waterproof canvas in my NCWs, because it cuts down on interfacing and it's really quite durable. And you can actually get some really nice patterns and designs in waterproof canvas now. It was just sort of where you could only get plain colours, but there are more and more companies over here now doing patterned waterproof canvas. I know I think it's Flamingo Fabrics do some, and I've seen some on the Man-Made UK Facebook group. So there's some just absolute like stunning designs out there, so you can just make your bags your own. And I think that's what I love about bag making as well, is being able to create something so unique that nobody else is going to have. You can make it exactly how you want to make it, especially as you get a little bit more confident in your bag making, and you can, you know, take one pattern that is pretty much, you know, the basis of what you want, and you can add things in from other patterns or other techniques that you've learned, and you can change things up a bit, and then you can create something that is just totally unique to you, totally unique to how you want it to function or look, or you can add things in or take things away. Yeah, I just think it's just so creative, and And I love handbags. I love handbags and I love shoes. And I haven't got into making shoes or anything yet, but I'm possibly sure that might be a workshop I go on at some point in the near future. But yeah, it doesn't matter what sort of size you are, your handbag fits. You know, if you put on weight, your handbag fits. If you lose weight, your handbag fits. And you know, you can have handbags in your wardrobes for 10, 15, 20 years and they're always going to fit. It doesn't matter what size you are or if your shape's changed over the years. Yeah, so I think that's another reason why I love bag making so much, is I find it so satisfying that something that I've made, it doesn't matter if my shape changes or my body changes, that's still going to be the same, and I can rotate them and I can use different ones for different things, and depending on my mood, if I'm wanting a certain colour, I've usually always got a handbag that's a certain colour. Mine are usually always green, to be fair, because I do love green. So yes, that's basically kind of like my journey and how I got into bag making. The things that I really love about bag making, the pattern designers, although there are so many to name. I think what I might do with the podcast, and I'd love people's opinions, is kind of do a focus sort of podcast, maybe on a pattern designer. I mean, if any pattern designers would like to come on and have a chat, I'd absolutely love that. But yeah, like focusing on a specific pattern designer or a specific fabric companies, particularly ones that create their own designs and their own patterns, and then possibly on sort of some techniques as well. And as I say, I do have a YouTube channel too, so anybody listening, if you want to go on and check out my YouTube channel, I do have a few videos on there. I'm kind of building it up at the moment, and I'm actually planning to do a series on my YouTube channel based on free patterns, because I think when you do get into bag making, everybody, and I'm the world's worst, has a tendency to just go out and buy all of the things. You see all the glittery things and all, I'm like a magpie. And sometimes as well, you kind of jump in feet first and you get overwhelmed, and it then becomes too much, and you put it to one side and you leave it, and then you get inside your own head and you think that you can't do it. And I really think free patterns are a great way of testing how you like a designer and how you feel about how a designer writes their patterns, and the way that they portray them. Some do loads of pictures, others do diagrams, some do videos along with the instructions as well. So yes, I thought doing a series on free patterns along with some tutorials, especially if I've got any hacks that I've kind of found that work a little bit better or work for me. And I think it would be a great way for particularly beginner bag makers to test out a pattern. And usually the free patterns don't take a lot of hardware, they don't take a lot of materials, so you don't have to go out and spend an absolute fortune on loads of bag making hardware and loads of bag making materials and interfaces and stuff. And it's a really, really good way to test the water. And I know that sounds a little bit ironic as somebody who has a bag making supply business, to say don't go out there and buy all of the things, because obviously that's my business and that's how I pay my bills. But what I don't want people to do is go and buy loads of things, not know what to do with them, or buy the wrong things for what they're wanting to do and become overwhelmed, and then things sit in a drawer or sit in a cupboard and never get used. I'd much rather people bought way less, use what they are buying to produce bags that they love and are proud of, and then move on and develop into creating more intricate patterns, and then then they can come and buy all the bag making supplies from me. But yeah, I feel really strongly about people being able to get into bag making and not feel overwhelmed, and be able to feel that they can do it and progress and go on to make amazing creations and have faith in themselves really. So that is the plan for the YouTube channel over the next, possibly towards the end of this year, is to create a series based on free bag patterns. I'll probably do others maybe in between, but the vast majority will be based on free bag patterns. And it'll be aimed at beginners. It'll be heavily focused on techniques that help, and maybe tips and little hacks that help just make the bag a little bit better, or making the bag a little bit easier, and means that anybody getting into bag making, they can start off with free patterns, so it reduces their costs and they're not pulling out as much, and they can then sort of build on their skills, so that when they do go on to buy more expensive bag patterns and maybe more expensive materials and more intricate hardwares and that sort of thing, that they're then able to use those things and create a bag that they're really proud of. So that is my plans for my YouTube channel. My plans for the podcast are basically just kind of focusing on different aspects of bag making. I was looking for a bag making podcast or a sewing podcast that focused on bags, and I just couldn't find one. And although I enjoy listening to other sewing podcasts, a lot of them are heavily focused on dressmaking and talk about getting fit and talk about the hemming, and that's all I've the sort of dressmaking terminologies, which is somebody who pretty much focuses on making bags. I would find I would skip those episodes. So I thought, why not start a podcast solely focused on bag making and see if anybody wants to listen. So if you've enjoyed that little spiel about me, which not really that sort of interesting, but I hope you've enjoyed it anyway. I'm hoping to get podcasts out sort of weekly. I'm not setting a day of the week just yet until I get into a rhythm of it, but I'm hoping to get them out weekly. And like I said earlier on, if anybody wants to come on and have a chat, and I'd absolutely love that. I love chatting to other people who love doing what I do, and or you've got a bag making type business and you want to come on and chat about that, how you got started, anything along those lines, feel free to drop me a message, get in touch, and we can look at making that happen. If anybody wants to reach out, drop me an email. You can find my website is www.memademake's.co.uk, and if you put Me Made Makes into Facebook, my page will come up, and my YouTube channel, I think if you search Deb Callaghan, which is my name at the moment, I'm getting married in December, so that will change. So the YouTube channel may change as well, so I will keep people updated if there is a change of name to the YouTube channel as well. But you can find me on any of them platforms. Feel free to reach out, drop me a message. I love to hear from people. I love to see people's bags that they've made. I have the Facebook group, which is the UK Bag Makers Society, so feel free to come and join there and get involved with all the chat. And I will see you next time. So until then, happy sewing.